The stories presented in this content have been curated from various online sources, including Reddit, Quora, and similar forums. While these narratives are intriguing, they may not reflect real events and we cannot verify their authenticity. For the purpose of storytelling, we have made creative adjustments, adding, removing, or modifying certain elements to enhance the narrative flow and engagement. These stories are shared not only for entertainment, but also to shed light on the darker corners of the internet and the potential consequences of exploring them recklessly. We do not condone or promote any of the actions or events described. Our aim is to inform and entertain, encouraging our audience to browse the internet responsibly. Stay cautious, stay safe, and always prioritize your digital security.
Jake Martin had always been drawn to the shadows of the digital world. Not in a malicious way, mind you. He wasn't a hacker looking to exploit vulnerabilities or a troll seeking to sow discord. No, Jake was a curious soul, a 27-year-old IT technician from Chicago with an insatiable appetite for knowledge, especially the kind that lurked in the unexplored corners of the internet. He spent his evenings immersed in cybersecurity articles, tinkering with obscure software, and occasionally dipping his toes into forums that whispered of the dark web. It was a fascination, a desire to understand the hidden mechanisms of the online world, a world that increasingly dictated the rhythm of modern life. He didn't realize it then, but this curiosity would lead him down a rabbit hole from which there might be no return. The genesis of Jake's descent began on a typical Saturday night. Rain lashed against his apartment window, a fitting backdrop for his digital explorations. He was idly browsing a tech subreddit, a digital watering hole for tech enthusiasts, when a thread about the Tor network caught his eye. Tor, the Onion router, was a network designed to provide anonymity online, a gateway to the so-called dark web. The comments were a mix of fascination and fear. Warnings like, "Stay away unless you know what you're doing," "It's not worth the risk," and the ominously cryptic, "Once you see certain things, you can't unsee them," were interspersed with technical discussions and cryptic links. It was like overhearing whispers in a darkened alleyway, a tantalizing mix of danger and intrigue. Jake, ever the curious one, was hooked. He'd heard whispers of the dark web before, tales of illicit marketplaces and shadowy forums, but he'd never dared to venture in. Now, armed with the anonymity of his apartment and the anonymity promised by Tor, he felt a strange sense of security, a shield against the unknown. He downloaded the Tor browser, a modified version of Firefox designed to route traffic through the Tor network's layered proxies, and set up a VPN for an extra layer of anonymity, a digital cloak and dagger. His initial forays were surprisingly mundane. He found marketplaces selling counterfeit goods, forums buzzing with conspiracy theories that seemed to have escaped the light of day, and sketchy cryptocurrency exchanges. It was a digital bazaar, a chaotic mix of the legal and the illegal, but nothing truly shocking. It felt like exploring a forgotten corner of the internet, a bit seedy, a bit rough around the edges, but ultimately harmless. He was, he thought, just an observer, a digital tourist passing through. A week later, the tone shifted. Jake's exploration took a darker, more unsettling turn. He stumbled upon a forum called Obsidian Nexus, a name that evoked images of dark, hidden places. It was a hub for users sharing links to more obscure and illicit corners of the dark web, places where the mundane illegality of counterfeit goods gave way to something far more sinister. One thread, titled "The True Depths," What lies beneath caught his attention. The comments were filled with hushed whispers of red rooms, live-streamed atrocities where users could pay in cryptocurrency to watch, and allegedly participate in unspeakable acts. Most dismissed them as urban legends, digital campfire stories designed to scare away the uninitiated. But one user, going by the ominous handle Erebus13, claimed otherwise. "They're real," Erebus13 wrote, his words hanging in the digital space like a threat. "Most are scams, elaborate hoaxes designed to steal your Bitcoin, but some aren't. If you want proof, here's a link, but don't say I didn't warn you." A link. A single, unassuming string of characters that held the potential to shatter Jake's perception of reality. A link that whispered of something truly horrific. Against every instinct of self-preservation, against the rising dread in his stomach, Jake clicked. The link led to a stark, minimalist onion site titled Silent Witness. The homepage was a void of black, broken only by stark white text and a single, chilling warning. "This content is not for the faint of heart. Proceed at your own risk." Below this ominous disclaimer was a single button labeled Enter. Jake felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. He could hear the frantic thump of his own heartbeat in the quiet of his apartment. His finger hovered over the trackpad, trembling slightly. Every rational part of him screamed at him to close the browser, to disconnect from the internet, to walk away and never look back. But the allure of the unknown, the morbid curiosity that had driven him this far, held him captive. He clicked Enter. What followed was a series of cryptic instructions, a digital scavenger hunt leading him deeper into the abyss. He had to download a specialized video client, a piece of software designed to decrypt and stream encrypted video feeds. He had to set up an anonymous payment wallet, a digital vault for untraceable cryptocurrency transactions. And finally, he had to decrypt a key file, a digital key that would unlock the final door. Jake followed each step meticulously, his hands shaking with a mixture of fear and morbid fascination. The process was intentionally complex, designed to weed out the casual browser, to ensure that only those truly determined to see what lay beyond would proceed. It was a test, a trial by fire. The final step led him to a live stream. The screen was black, empty. A timer in the corner ticked down relentlessly, 000500. As the seconds ticked away, a chat box to the side flickered to life, filled with messages from anonymous users, their words a chilling prelude to what was to come. "Is this legit?" one asked. "Already paid, waiting to see," another replied. "Hope it's not another fake," a third wrote, a hint of desperation in their digital voice. When the timer hit 0, the screen flickered, and a dimly lit room came into view. A figure in a black mask stood in the center, flanked by bound individuals with hoods over their heads. The chat exploded. "Holy sh*T, it's real. No way. What's the bidding start at?" Jake's stomach churned. The air in his apartment suddenly felt thick and heavy. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This wasn't a prank, not some elaborate hoax. The scene before him had a chilling authenticity, a raw and visceral quality that sent a shiver down his spine. As the masked figure began speaking in a distorted voice, describing the entertainment planned for the evening, Jake's blood ran cold. Jake's hands hovered over his keyboard, paralyzed by a conflict of impulses. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to close the browser, to sever the connection, to erase any trace of this horrific place from his digital life. But he couldn't look away. The morbid curiosity that had brought him this far now held him in its grip, a morbid fascination with the grotesque. The chat erupted with bids, the cryptocurrency amounts climbing higher and higher, a macabre auction taking place before his very eyes. The masked figure moved to one of the captives, slowly, deliberately lifting their hood to reveal a terrified woman, her face streaked with tears, her eyes wide with fear. Jake's breath hitched in his throat. This was no staged performance. Her fear was real, palpable, radiating from the screen like a physical force. The details of what followed were a blur, a horrifying montage of cruelty and degradation that Jake would forever struggle to erase from his memory. He couldn't bear to watch any longer. With trembling hands, he finally closed the stream. The image of the terrified woman burned into his mind like a brand. He slammed his laptop shut, the sudden silence in his apartment amplifying the horror of what he had just witnessed. He sat in the darkness, his heart pounding in his chest, a cold dread settling over him like a shroud. He felt sick, disgusted with himself for having gone so far, for having crossed a line he could never uncross. The following days were a descent into paranoia. Jake was constantly looking over his shoulder, convinced he was being watched. The faces of strangers on the street seemed to hold a knowing glint, their eyes boring into him, accusing him of witnessing something he shouldn't have seen. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being followed, that unseen eyes were tracking his every move. He took drastic measures, wiping his hard drive clean, deleting every trace of the Tor browser, and vowing never to venture into the dark web again. He even considered changing his phone number, moving apartments, starting a new life under a different name. But the damage was done. He had seen what lay beneath, and the knowledge of its existence had irrevocably tainted his perception of the world. Then, late one night, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A single, chilling sentence. "We saw you watching. Don't come back." Jake's blood ran cold. He stared at the message on his screen, the words glowing in the dim light of his apartment like a warning etched in blood. He had no idea who they were, the faceless entities who had sent the message, but one thing was terrifyingly clear. Some doors are better left unopened. Some depths are better left unexplored. He had peered into the abyss, and now he feared the abyss had peered.